Right. So, hello, everyone, and welcome to TAAG's Voices of Liberation podcast. Thank you for joining us today. So, I'm just going to go over some background of who we are and how the podcast got started for anyone new tuning in. So, TAG stands for Take Action Advocacy Group, or TAG as we affectionately call ourselves. We have been around since 2014, and initially we started to address some of the community violence that was occurring in our neighborhoods up here in the greater Pittsburgh area, an area we affectionately call the Mon Valley. So we had a lot of homicides that were occurring, and we actually started because my cousin, Carlos Hudson, was murdered with Jenna Randolph here in McKeesport, and his mother, May Hudson, and myself started Take Action Advocacy Group to really center around what can we do about some of our community violence. And that led to a lot of us running for office and winning, a lot of us writing policy reports. And what that showed us is you cannot ignore the effects of white supremacy and racism on creating community violence. So we shifted to focus more on social injustices and Black liberation around 2017. And then we became our own nonprofit in 2020. So that's a little bit of our history. And then we became a nonprofit. We were able to get some community programming. One of them is our complaint program that we call Social Work Abolition, where we kind of help people guide them through the criminal justice system, connect with Black therapists. And from that is where the podcast developed because we noticed that it was very hard to get any awareness or attention to the families we were working with because they don't have videos. We often work with them after they've worked with several other agencies and they're kind of at a standstill. So we wanted to make sure that we got more of their stories out. So that's where the podcast came. It's been around for going on 3 years now. We also have chapters, which is our flagship program. We have adult chapter and a youth chapter who have action plans that they work on within the community. And we have a McKeesport and Duquesne formation now. And then we fight all of the social injustices you can think of through advocacy and community organizing. And we also do political education and training as well. So that's a little bit about TAG, a little bit about who we are. Today's topic is the importance of study during Black History Month and beyond. And we are just overly excited and very honored to have Melina Abdullah on as our guest. So I'm going to read out her bio. She's a professor of Pan African Studies at Cal State's LA College and Ethnic Studies, co founder of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles and Black Lives Matter Grassroots, where she's also director. She's a leader in California Faculty Association, both locally and statewide. Mother of three, Dr. Abdullah earned her PhD from the University of Southern California in political science and her BA from Howard University in African American Studies. She has authored numerous articles and book chapters. Known by the name Doc Melly Mel, she is also a creator, host, and producer of the radio program This Is Not a Drill on KBLA Talk 1580. She's a columnist at the Los Angeles Sentinel and is recognized expert on race, gender, class, and social movements. In April 2024, Abdullah was announced as the vice presidential candidate pick for Dr. Cornel West in his run for president of the United States on the platform of truth, justice, and love. And she's the first Muslim to run for the vice president alongside Cornel West. So I'm going to bring on our guests. Hello.
Good morning. Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being a guest. We absolutely appreciate it. So before we kind of get to the questions, can you just tell us a little bit about some of the work you do?
Sure. Well, I'm co-founder and director of Black Lives Matter Grassroots, which is the real work of Black Lives Matter. We say Black Lives Matter Grassroots is Black Lives Matter. We're 52 chapters on the ground all around the world. So we say we stand on front lines, not on red carpets, although we just released our documentary on Friday. So we were on a red carpet just for that time, just for that. But people, when you think of Black Lives Matter, you think of movement. And unfortunately, there was a band of thieves that came in and
Mhm.
stole our resources, our platforms, and really sullied our good name. And we want to make sure people know that that's not us. So we're Black Lives Matter Grassroots, and that's where I choose to pour in my work, and am grateful to find community there. I think the closest chapter we have to Pittsburgh is in Buffalo. I believe Buffalo is the closest one to you. But all around the world, we even have a chapter in Sweden, which is we're the largest Black organization in the country, in Sweden. So it's really fulfilling and purposeful work. And then in addition to that, I teach, and who thought that teaching would be so controversial? But when you teach Pan African studies and you got a white supremacist in the White House, you know, fighting for Black studies, I'm on the board for the National Council for Black Studies, and really lift up the revolutionary work that is Black studies as we think about Black History Month and the 100 years of Black History Month, of Negro History Week, actually, that grew
Mhm.
into Black History Month, that we're having to rediscover why it's revolutionary and controversial in these moments. And then, of course, the most important thing is I'm a mom and I have 3 kids, and grateful to be a mom also of movement babies. So, yeah.
Yes, yes, O'Shea. Thank you. Thank you for your work, and thank you for that distinction as well.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about Black History Month, and the importance of, the 100 years. So can you kind of explain how does understanding the historical nature of Black liberation movements inform today's organizing? And I always say this when we're kind of doing our trainings, is that a lot of people don't have a historical background to their organizing. And then to me, when you have that, you're more rooted in community. So have you seen that? And can you talk a little bit about why it's so important to have that connection to Black liberation?
Sure. I think you're raising something that's really important as people kind of contemplate Black history, right? There's this conversation around, well, let's make it Black Futures Month.
Mm-hmm.
But as we forge Black futures, you have to dig up and honor and be have show gratitude and deference to the movements that got us this far down freedom's road, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we want to forge Black futures, and that means honoring the Black history that got us where we are, right? So even in Black Lives Matter, it's really important to remember that we're not the first organization to take state sanctioned violence head on, right?
Mm-hmm.
That as soon as Black people have never submitted to our own oppression, we've never submitted to our own oppression, right? We've always been 10 toes down, struggling for our own freedom. We never submitted to enslavement. We've never submitted to lynching. We've never submitted to Jim Crow. We've never submitted. We've always resisted. And so when we think about that, it's important to remember that immediately, when
Mm-hmm.
you think about slave catching, giving birth to policing, Black people were resistant to it. So as you think about why you have your podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same reason why Mama Ida B. Wells was a journalist, that we have to have pens and voices that
Mm-hmm.
are mightier than swords, right? That there's an African proverb that until the lion tells the story, the hunter will always be the hero, right? So being willing to do that. So when we think about the history of resisting police violence and state sanctioned violence, it began immediately, right?
Mm-hmm.
Immediately. So we had the anti lynching movement with Mama Ida B. Wells and Black club women, which I think is
Mm-hmm.
hugely important to uplift the way that Black women have always organized, that it's not about individual recognition, it's
Mm-hmm.
about doing the work. And whatever you have, you bring it to movement. Everything. You bring everything to movement. That we have to remember that as we moved forward, that there were other resistant movements. And I'm really, really grateful to be able to call Many of the members of the Black Panther Party for self-defense, my babas and
Mhm.
foremothers and aunties, right? That they forged the path for us, they blazed the trail for us. And so as we think about Black history, we got to remember why it was birthed and who birthed it. And it was the telling of these stories that was so important. So I'll be quiet after this. Um, I'll pause after this. That I think that as we think about 100 years of Black History Month,
Yeah.
it's hugely important to remember that Black History Month was forged by Black people, birthed by Black people. And
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Carter G. Woodson was a coal miner in
Mm-hmm.
West Virginia. Both of his parents were enslaved. He was not able to become the scholar who would later give birth to an organization that's still here, the Association for the Study of African Life and History, right? Still here, a
Mm-hmm.
scholar is still one of the most important study groups that we have on this planet, right? That he was 40 years old when he got his high school diploma and went on to be the
Okay.
second PhD, Black PhD from Harvard University. And then we also have to remember that when he chose Negro History Week to honor the life of Frederick Douglass and also Abraham Lincoln, right? He chose that week to honor them, that it was Black students, courageous Black students at Kent State University in 1969 who said a week is not enough. And they took Black History Month and a half from the time they returned to school in the spring semester through the month of February, and it was claimed the first Black History month was claimed in 1970, but not recognized by the government until 1980. We didn't need them to recognize us. So this is why history is important. They never recognized us. They didn't give us this. We took it. So I don't care what Trump says or any of these white supremacists say. We don't need them. It's ours. And so
Mm-hmm.
this is why we celebrate and commemorate Black history, because it gives us tools and learnings and teachings from the past that help us to forge the future.
Absolutely, Shay. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love how you highlighted Black women and the role that Black women have played in history. I think that's overlooked a lot of times. I also loved how you pointed out the commercializing of Black history, that I've also seen with Juneteenth. And I've
Right.
also seen with anything that we have, as if they try to capture it. And they use it a lot of times to capture our people with the propaganda and then with
Mhm.
some of the language that they use. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that we can do to kind of reclaim Black history? Just not for 1 month, but just all the time.
Um, we are autonomous beings. And I think the reason when you use the term capture, I love that term. I've never used it in this context, but that's
Mhm.
the right term. Like I think we've been searching for a term and you encapsulate it so well because when you think about capture, right? Capture that we've been captured and they're still trying to capture us, right? That Black History Month, our culture, Juneteenth, all of these things are the 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 things that are birthed from our souls and from our people and from they come from a sovereign place, right? That my family is originally from, well, not originally from, originally we're from Nigeria. We did the African ancestry,
Mhm.
but in this country we come from Louisiana and Texas, right? And so my uh, great 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 grandmother Rachel was in the last um, shipload of illegally imported enslaved people into Sabine Pass, Texas. So I'm saying that because our connection with Juneteenth is real, right?
Yeah.
Like it's important to remember that most Black people didn't even celebrate Juneteenth. You were from Southeast Texas to celebrate Juneteenth. Like in Los Angeles, we had a strong Juneteenth celebration, but it's because most people come from Louisiana and Texas. But if
Mhm.
you I went to school in DC, they
Mhm.
didn't celebrate Juneteenth. They didn't even know what Juneteenth was, most of them, right?
Right.
So Juneteenth was something that was ours. And so it is really antithetical to our celebrations for you to be buying your Juneteenth t-shirt at Target, right? Like
Mhm. Oh, sure.
they don't own Juneteenth. I was mad when who was it? Joe Biden decided to make it a
Mhm.
federal holiday. We don't, and I'm going to say stuff that always gets me in trouble. Why would white people get to celebrate Juneteenth? You know, I always say if you want to celebrate Juneteenth as white people, then pay reparations. That's how you celebrate Juneteenth, right? Pay reparations. That's Juneteenth for you, white people.
Mhm.
Juneteenth for us, it's Black Freedom Day, it's Jubilee, right?
Mhm.
Um, but it's important that we understand that we can refuse that capture that you alluded to. Summon the spirit of Nat Turner and of Mama Harriet and of Sojourner Truth, and make sure that we summon what it means to be free Black people, especially in this time where they are overtly
Yes.
trying to capture us.
Absolutely. They absolutely are. And that you uplifted so many things, in your response. We had some issues up here with our Juneteenth where we have a very active boycott against the city because they're not responding to police violence. And they decided to sponsor one of the Juneteenths that we typically participate in. So we left. We said we're not going to be involved with it, and it was this huge art war. And they're like, "Well, you don't like Juneteenth? Of course I do, but we don't need them to do it. We've been doing this for about 3 years without them, and it was just community donations. And to us, we really seen the importance of like reclaiming that and having ownership over our celebration in the way we wanted to do it. So, we understood that pulling them in with that would only, cause further harm, which of course it did. But we kind of only got there through study. Because I said when we
Mm,
first started in 2014, we weren't even on that tip, but it was through study of us reading and us learning and unlearning some of the
mm,
things that we had learned, to kind of get there. What are some, because we also had study groups, which have been extremely helpful. We've also started to do our own training where we've done some classes for youth, like outside of the school system. What are some like other practical ways with study groups, and what are some stories that you can think of like from the history that can inform our organizing? Today you spoke a lot about your family. I also did African ancestry and found out we came from Cambodia,
mm,
and then also, of course, migrated through being trafficked to Sumter, South Carolina.
mm,
And my great great grandfather left there because he refused to cross the street for a white woman. So they sentenced him to a chain gang, and he left. And he said he would never come back, and took all of us up here to the north to McKeesport to work at the steel mill for a better life. And then the steel mill and everything they've done with the environmental racism and the whole connections with that. But that's kind of how we got up there. And then when I was able to learn that, it helped me be a better organizer because I've been organizing since I was 11. And I would
mm.
always say, like, this does not me. This has to be, my ancestors. But through study, I was able to see kind of and connect the dots and really see, oh, okay, this is where that comes from. So, what are some um, any practical suggestions you have, like study groups or anything else, as well as some stories to kind of connect things?
Study groups are hugely important, right? So my child always talks about we need to do more reading circles. And,
Mm-hmm.
um, sometimes we're so busy, especially under a fascist regime. So one of the tools of fascism is to make you fight on every front so that you're so exhausted that you're defeated. You're defeated because you're so exhausted and you never have time to really develop a strategy.
Mm.
But we have to steal back time for ourselves. And this is the importance of organizing, right? Kwame Ture teaches us, very simply organize, organize, organize. What that means is coming together with people beyond yourself, because we want to make sure that as we again look at Black history,
Mm.
it's never been one person that gets us free,
Yeah.
right? Mama Harriet absolutely was a conductor and the Moses of our people, a conductor of the Underground Railroad and the Moses of our people. And Mama Harriet needed all of those other folks
Yep.
an Underground Railroad is not just her, right? You need
Right.
along the way. I think, and I'm going to pause to just, as I kind of explore this importance of study, also say we need spirit, right?
Mm.
So I think that that's the other thing that fascism does, is try to get us away from our spiritual tools. That also, if you look at any movement, so a couple of things: that one, any movement is multiple people, it's not a single person.
Yeah.
So white supremacist, patriarchal, heterosexist capitalism is what exalts this model of individual leadership. So they lie. It's lies when they say Martin Luther King. Where is our next Martin Luther King? Martin Luther King was a phenomenal orator and thinker and
Mhm.
all of these things. He put his body on the line, was arrested 40 times, was stabbed before he was finally assassinated. And we honor Dr. King. And as we honor him as a peacemaker, you cannot honor Dr. King without honoring Coretta Scott King.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about the anti-war stance and that pure nonviolence stance, and if you're going to fight for peace here, you have to fight for peace everywhere. That was all Coretta Scott King. She pulled him into that. So it was never him by himself, not even in his own house. But also, Mama Ella Baker teaches us that the movement made King. King did not make the movement. So it was your grandmother and my grandmother, your grandfather, who you just talked about, right? They were all the makers of the civil rights movement. So the system lies to us so that we think, who am I? Because I'm not Martin Luther King. No, we're not Martin Luther King. You are Fawn Walker Montgomery, right?
Mhm.
And you pour into the movement, and every single person can say their own name and remember again that we are the leaders that we've been waiting for. Again, Kwame Ture, right? We are the leaders we've been waiting for. And so we make sure that we do the work. So one, movement is never one person, but two, the importance of spirit. So as I can't invoke Mama Harriet without also invoking God, right?
Okay.
Mama Harriet was unabashed about how she freed more than 1,000 enslaved people. And I know your textbooks lie and say that she freed 300 people. No, the Combahee River raid alone is documented
Yes.
to have freed more than 700 people. I don't know how you get to 300, from 700 to 300. You can't. So I'm going to just add them together and say it's at least more than 1,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
She was unabashed about saying the way that she did it is listening to God. God would guide her. God would speak to her. It's on record that she would have these spells where she would black out. But when she would wake back up, it was God telling her, no, pause tonight. You move tomorrow night. No, don't go east, go west. Not that house, this house. You can trust this person. God spoke to her. And I want to uplift that because it's so important in these moments. And for me, I observe Ramadan
Mm.
But this moment, even as we talk about fascism being already here, in the words of George Jackson, fascism is already here. Fascism is actually here right now, right?
Yeah.
This is absolutely fascism. But the moment is also something else. This is the first time when Ramadan, Lent, and the Lunar New Year and Black History Month are all at the same time, right?
Mm.
All at the same time. We have to remember to listen to the God that still speaks to us, to
Mm.
be guided by the ancestors who are still sitting on our shoulders. And so I would say that's really important. And then finally, answering your question about study.
Mhm.
Study teaches us all of these things. It teaches us that what I just said about Mama Harriet is also true for Nat Turner. It's also true for Toussaint Louverture and Dookie Boukman. And if you don't know the stories of these struggles, we will be fed and believe the lie of defeat. We are triumphant. Black people are triumphant because we're doing righteous work. And so that's the importance. So I think that the way that we do it is multiple ways.
Yeah.
So as an educator, I open my classroom up to anyone who wants to engage. Um, we should be collectively reading. There's books that I'm reading. I tell everybody right now, if you have not read Octavia Butler's parable books, read them right now, Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents, because she foretells, this moment. Those books were written in 1997 and 2000, but there's a supposedly fictitious president who, I kid you not, Sister Fawn, I'm sure you've read them. The fictitious president's campaign slogan was "Make America Great Again."
Yes.
I guarantee you, Trump ain't read nothing. He damn sure has not read
Yes.
Octavia Butler. She foretold this.
Mm-hmm.
And her answer as a clairvoyant, right? She's a clairvoyant. She's a brilliant writer, but if you read any of her books, she's a clairvoyant, right? She reminds us that we have to be willing to birth new worlds for ourselves. We have to be willing to reclaim our autonomy. And so we have to study circles and even if it means less sleep, deepening ourselves spiritually and artistically and fortifying ourselves with the teachings of those who walk before us and walk alongside us are hugely important. If you are not reading, you will feel defeated. If you're not teaching yourselves lessons and learning lessons
Yes.
collectively, then you'll feel defeated. I'm talking too long. Sorry about that.
No, no, you keep talking. No, don't be sorry at all. You're dropping some amazing jewels
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
along the way. Don't know. You're completely fine. I love how you invoke the ancestors, into this conversation and call them out. And I want to call out the name of my grandfather's, Castilla Harriet Jr. But I
Mhm.
love how you're bringing up a lot of these names and some names that people don't know about,
Mhm.
and the names that we should kind of be bringing up more. I just want to show some of the books that I kind of read. I don't know if it'll show. Oh, well, okay. So this book here is The Healing Power of African American Spirituality by Stephanie Rose Bird. So this
Mhm.
is a book. So when you talk about spirit and bringing in the spirit into the conversation with the study in the spirit, a lot of that is resonates with me because when I studied, that's when I got more into the spirit
Right.
and was able to sustain myself in organizing because I've been organizing for a long time. And I know that has nothing to do with me. That has everything to do with my ancestors. And this is book Jambalaya by
Oh, I love that book.
yeah
Yeah.
by
Louise
Ye
is
Ye
uh-huh.
by Ye Ye Latish.
Uh,
Uh, and this is an abolition handbook that I
mm.
have here by Patrice as well. And then this book on capitalism. It's not you, it's capitalism. Is
Oh, I love her. And that's an easy read too.
yeah,
Um Malika, right?
yes, yes,
Yes.
Michael. Yep. Hmm.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
That's one that everybody should give. It fills you as an adult, but also it
Mm.
sparks young people, right? And
Yeah.
she wrote it, Malika Jabali wrote it so that we can all, and I think that she's true. I love that she's so true to what she says she believes, right? That um, awakenings of working class people need to be done in a way that working class people can be a part of it, right? That we shouldn't be writing in ways. I love reading Karl Marx, right? I've read Karl
Mhm.
Marx, but who knows what the hell a proletariat is, right? Like,
Right.
let's write in ways where you just say, they're stealing capitalist class, the owner, in fact, don't even use that word, the ownership class, the
Mm.
owners are stealing your money. You know, your workers, their owners, they're stealing your money. You're not asking for anything that you're not entitled to. And I love how Malika writes in ways that are accessible so you can give that book to anybody from a PhD to a high
Mm.
schooler, um, and they can get it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, she really did a really good job with making it plain.
Hmm. Yeah, you got words. Yeah, yeah. That's our grandma's way of saying it.
Yes.
Like, make it plain, make it plain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she really kind of makes it plain so everyone can understand it. And you also spoke of um, this tool of white supremacy, of urgency, and kind of us just fighting at all fronts. I love that you brought that up. We're always telling people to pause and breathe and take a minute and figure out, okay, what are you going to do next? And who's not in the room?
Mm.
And when you're constantly running and fighting on everything that they do, you don't remember who's not in the room. You don't, really do true community engagement that goes beyond a listening session because that's an ongoing thing that never stops. It's always kind of going on. So I loved how you brought up how reading, studying, connecting with the spirit can get you to that point because you have to be really intentional about stopping and figuring out, okay, what do I do next, from a strategy standpoint. And then to kind of close out this part of the conversation, what things should we be doing now in this moment? Like, what is our call? And I know it's not just one. I know there's several things that we should be doing, right now in this moment.
Join an organization. I think that's the most important thing. And if there's no organization you like, birth one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but join an organization. We're not going to be free fighting individualistically. We're not going to be free. And I will say that I know there's a rhetoric about sitting this one out. You cannot sit it out.
Mm-hmm.
Black people, we are sitting ducks if we sit it out. I want to remind folks and uplift just two names, Keith Porter and
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Linda Davis.
Yes.
When we talk about people being killed by ICE, Keith Porter was a Black father who was just living life when he was killed by ICE on New
Mm-hmm.
Year's Eve. Dr. Linda Davis was just driving to work when she was killed by ICE. So we cannot sit it out. We have to fight. But the way that we fight most strategically is by joining an organization
Mm-hmm.
so that we can make sure we have each other's backs. Otherwise, your back is open and they gonna get you.
Yeah.
So join an organization is what I offer. And let me add this. Um,
Please.
I saw this sister. I met this sister in the airport a couple days ago, and I guess I was tired because I just said it. Um, I said also, like, just be willing to be crazy.
Mm-hmm.
These are crazy making times. Be willing to be crazy. I saw this video of this brother in the airport um, on Instagram yesterday, and he was standing in the middle of the airport yelling at people for just going about their lives. And he was like, have y'all read the Epstein files?
Mm-hmm.
They are eating babies.
Mm-hmm.
They are eating babies. the most powerful people in the world are eating babies. They're trafficking and eating babies, and y'all acting like the world is just normal. They're eating babies, y'all.
Yeah.
And I feel like the woman who was filming it was going, "Oh, he crazy. He is crazy. You got to be willing to be crazy."
Yes, you
You
do.
know, Mama Sada, who's now our ancestor, she used to teach that only the strong go crazy, the rest just go along. I'm trying
Mhm.
to be one of the strong ones who go crazy, not just go along, you know?
Yes, yes, absolutely. This is the time to be radical. This is
Hmm.
not the time to be silent. It's not the time to sit things out. It's the time to organize,
Yeah,
which is our superpower. And
that's right.
that's what we should be doing in these times. I love that you brought in ancestor Shakur, because when she passed, I feel like it became trendy to just say her name without reading her books.
Right,
And
right.
people really should be reading her autobiography. If you
Yeah.
have not, you should be. That should be like one of the first things that you're reading. And a lot of people didn't even understand, didn't really know who she was. And I
Mm.
said, please make sure that you're reading.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the things you talk about, right? Like who's not in the room in
Hmm.
movement. We all know Mama Asada and Black Lives Matter. You know, we close every single gathering with a chant that we call Asada that is words that she penned, right? Um, but beyond movement, do they know who Asada is, right? Beyond the Black liberation movement in particular, do they know who she is? And how do we invoke her and honor her with our own work?
Sure. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So the third piece of the podcast is the part where that I call talking shit, where I kind of talk about what is going on in the world and what is happening here with us locally. When I say locally, I mean the greater Pittsburgh area. So we have a very active campaign against the McKeesport Police Department and the city of McKeesport. So a lot of our organizing takes place and it started here in McKeesport. And I would say for the past 5 years, they have just been losing their damn minds, and 47 being elected for the second time just empowered them more. So we've had our McKeesport Police Department under investigation. We've had two cops arrested for fraud for stealing over $1 million.
Wow.
Yeah, the evidence room was under investigation for about a year, and we've had them go viral twice for arresting black people. One in particular was a 70-year-old black man, Mr. Stinson, who they fractured his ribs when they were arresting him. And then he had a trait that they pushed further back down his throat. So this was all just last year.
Mm.
So we've been fighting them since the beginning. We have an active lawsuit against them for 2020 when one of their officers was shot. Officer survived, but he was shot by Kobe Francis, and they started about a week long terror campaign here, knocking on doors, pulling people out of their houses, security checkpoints, trying to find Kobe. And so we sued them along with the ACLU now, and that lawsuit is ongoing. But they terrorized us for about a week, literally, because one of their officers were shot. So we've kind of been living under this fascism and state violence. Like I've never not known that. And that's one of the reasons why I started organizing at the age of 11 around here specifically, because it's always kind of been like that. So we responded with some demands to have a police review board, to have the officers terminated, to defund their budget by 10% and put that money back, to divest and invest back into Black communities. And we have a boycott where we're asking people to not participate in city events because they use these events to give the image that they care and that they're actually doing something. So we put out this boycott, and it has caused some tension in the community with people saying, oh, well, you're not working together, you're not working with people, and we're not going to work with our oppressors who are openly killing
Right.
us, in a moment, regardless if they black, white, orange, green, or purple, because there are some black people on council.
Mm.
but we recognize the importance of disagreeing with Black people on principle publicly, and we don't buy into that tool of white supremacy. Oh, we have to have this image that we are all a monologue, because we're not. So we have that very active campaign that is still going on. Our mayor, he was a mayor for about 12 to 14 years. He recently retired
Mhm.
out of nowhere. He also has a DUI from, from another state ongoing, and he just retired. And when he retired, they voted in a new mayor, which we don't feel like is legal. That is an update, I guess, for everyone. We're still doing some political education around that campaign as well, so we can increase the people's knowledge about what the police are doing here in McKeesport. And then, as far as nationally, what's going on is the issues with ICE and the names you've already brought up, Keith Porter, and Dr. Lisa Davis, and how they were killed by ICE. And I think one piece of the conversation that's being left out is the connection with ICE and the police, that these are not separate entities, they are a part of a system all in the same, as well as the propaganda that's being connected with police are good and they'll save you from ICE, which is not true, as well as the capitalism and the money that is being spent here. ICE at this point has larger budgets than some militaries. And when ICE gets money, the police also gets money because they get money with these agreements. So the money kind of funnels the same way. So just to kind of close out the conversation, is that some things that you're seeing, and why is it so important to connect ICE with police?
Right. Well, absolutely. And we always say, we've been saying that do not say abolish ICE if you're not going to say abolish the police. It's the same system. Don't say F ICE if you're not going to say F the police. If you're
Yes.
not going to, they're the same system. And what we see as you bring up mayors, what we see with mayors in our city is they're saying, look, take ICE out of our city. I live in Los Angeles, right? So we were the first city to be under siege by ICE. But what we see is a mayor who says, remove ICE. We want ICE out of LA so
Mhm.
that we can oppress our own people, right? The anti-ICE protest, it's not ICE that's really doing most of the harm. It's LAPD.
Mm.
It's LAPD shooting children with rubber bullets. It's LAPD that's unleashing. I got tear gassed by the police, not by ICE, right? Baba Keeley got beaten by the LA County Sheriff, not by ICE. They're the protectors of ICE. And we raised Keith Porter, who was killed here in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first things that we saw is LAPD one hailing Keith Porter's murderer, who was an ICE agent, as a hero,
Mm-hmm.
and absolutely engaging in a double murder of Keith, calling him a gunman, calling him a suspect when he was just a Black man living life on New Year's Eve, right?
Yeah.
Um, sorry about that. I'm gonna wait for it to stop ringing. Um, but the second thing is that that when we think about what happened here, is it was the people who had to rise up for Keith Porter. And so we got the name of the killer, we got the photo of the killer and all of that because the people did. So that's absolutely right that we have to say abolish police every time we say abolish ICE. And we need new systems of public safety. So saying that policing is an irredeemable institution that descends from slave catching does not mean that we don't want public safety, but public safety looks like housing and livable wage jobs and after school programs and mental health resources and all of the other things. It doesn't look like new millennial slave catchers.
Ashay, thank you for that. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And yeah, thank you for joining us. We truly enjoyed this conversation with you. And yeah, do you have any closing words?
that we want people to be invited to join the work of Black Lives Matter Grassroots. We're at BLM Grassroots on all social media, BLM Grassroots on all social media, and blmgrassroots.org. And of course, we organize with aligned organizations as well. So, really, really looking forward to deepening the work that we do. We don't have a chapter in Pittsburgh
Yeah,
or in the Pittsburgh area. So, making sure that we're aligned and that we do work and amplify each other. And so thank you for having me on.
absolutely. Thank you. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you again to Dr. Abdullah for joining us. We're going to close out by saying thank you all for joining us today for this podcast. And I was going to highlight as we close something that Dr. Abdullah had mentioned around public health, public safety, and what it should look like. We do have this cop city going on in Pittsburgh that's being built, and we are actively resisting that as well. And we don't want to untie that from this conversation about police and ICE. It is all connected, it's all the same. The propaganda that they're using for this cop city here in Pittsburgh is that it is a public safety center. And they're estimated to spend $84 million on a public safety center. But public safety, as Dr. Abdullah was saying, is housing, is livable wages, is affordable housing, is having a safe environment where you can drink the water, where you can breathe the air. That is public safety. So 84 million, as we all know, can go a hell of a long way in the greater Pittsburgh area. We've already had reports and studies done that show that it's one of the worst places for Black people and Black women to live because we fall below all of the categories of Black maternal health, with housing, with environmental justice, all the gambit of things. So 84 million can go into addressing those issues in actual public safety center for the people, and not designed to assist police and further harms of state violence. So I wanted to end with that because we're always going to amplify stopping Cop City being built here in Pittsburgh, as well as police violence and a connection to ICE. So ICE and police are not separate systems. They are one and the same. We talked about propaganda with that. We talked about capitalism with that, and how the money that they spent to recruit these new ICE agents and the commercials that you've seen coming up on your nationally televised programming. There was all this capitalism and propaganda that went into having ICE have one of the biggest budgets in the world. Their budget is literally bigger than some governments like Turkey, like Spain. We're talking about ICE, you all. And if you're looking at any government in the way it's ran, what is your biggest budget? It's police? No, it's ICE. And that is not an accident, that is done by design. So please think about that and include, when you say abolish ICE, abolish police as well in your organizing. As always, thank you for joining us. Follow us on social media, Take Action Advocacy Group. We'll, as usual, put these links in the chat. We do have an upcoming event actually on the 25th of this month. We'll be celebrating Freedom February with Movement for Black Lives and with Q's Cares. And we'll be talking about immigration, ICE, and people power. Because people in power are always stronger than the people in power. So everything that we talked about today always goes back to people power. I'm going to close on that quote I said. The people in power, or the people are always stronger than the people in power. The people are always stronger than the people in power. Ashe, thank you for joining us.